former Labour leader Lord Kinnock has called on the government to introduce a wealth tax on the top 1% to reduce rising levels of poverty.
It comes as new data shows the average CEO salary for one of the country's top 100 companies has hit a record high. Here's what some of you had to say on bringing in a wealth tax.
They've got everything they want, and it's the ones that don't have it we need. A lot of people, they need help. They're struggling now.
I think at the minute it just needs to be reformed. The whole taxing system, I think, just needs to be reformed everywhere.
I think you're going to get more people kicking off about getting taxed higher.
I think it's undoubtedly overblown, the fear of the flight of the money. There's a lot of people who have many reasons why they want to stay in this country who are super rich.
So, should the top 1% pay more? Zach Polanski is the deputy leader of the Green Party and member of the London Assembly, thinks there should be a wealth tax. And businessman and former Dragon Richard Farley says the richest are already contributing lots of money to the country. So it's a big no from him when it comes to the wealth tax. Just, Zach, before I come to you, let's just clarify. So when we say the top 1%, we're talking about, well, what you're talking about is what the ONS describe as wealth owners. So is that sort of assets of...
Tell us what you mean by
what, how many assets have those people got in your mind?
Yeah, so we're talking about assets, things like houses, pensions, investments, art, jewellery,
of how
that
much?
kind of thing.
Totalling how much?
So 1% of £10 billion or more, or 2% on £1 billion or more. So it's really important to point out, this is not about people's income. It's not about what we all earn with our hands, our brains, our mouths. This is about people who are earning more money in their sleep than we could possibly imagine. At the same time,
what
since
does that
COVID...
mean, 1%? Sorry, just to be clear. So if someone has £1 million property, which certainly not everybody, but a lot of people do, maybe mortgage to the hilt in London, for instance, on flats even, would they come into your category or not?
Well, it depends on how much it's worth, but it's the valuation of everything and it's the asset after that. Now, there's lots of ways of doing this. Another way, for instance, is to bring capital gains tax in line with income tax. The reason why that's important is because right now we are taxing earned income more than we're taxing unearned wealth. This is fundamentally about fairness. We have an economy that is absolutely broken.
Okay. So you're saying 1% on those that have got £10 million assets. Richard Farley, if you've got have you got £10 million assets?
Possibly.
OK, let's say you have got £10 million assets, probably more. So 1% of that is £100,000. Are you saying in your position you're not willing to pay £100,000 into the coffers here that could help children who can't get food on the table?
Yeah, it's about ending child poverty.
Yeah, but rather than making it about me personally, because I'm not going to change the world, am I? But it all sounds great. It all sounds absolutely fantastic, because there's an inequality problem in the UK, there's a budget deficit problem in the UK. They are both there. So when you think, oh, OK, let's just tax the rich and both will be fixed. Very simple solution by someone who studied drama and ran a hypnosis business. I was a central bank economist. I looked it up because it sounds great. I looked it up about a month ago when this became a topic, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work in theory. Even left-wing economists say it doesn't work. But it'll make everyone poorer, OK, because of behavioural change, people leaving, loss of incentive. The cost of implementing it, it will make people poorer. Even left-wing economists say that. Now, you don't believe me? It's been tried. It's been tried in so many countries. It's been tried in France, Germany, Denmark, Sweden. Lots of places have tried it and they gave it up. Hollande, remember you probably guys remember, you might be too young, but the French were all living here because when Hollande put in this wealth tax, everyone moved to London. Everyone left. 10,000 millionaires have already left the UK. It's bizarre to say they won't leave.
People will be screaming at the TV.
I have 5 to 10 friends already who have left.
0.3% of people might leave. Henley and Partners, which is what the inflation of
hang on, Zach. How many
sell
people?
golden
how many
passports.
people? How many people?
30, are you going to let me speak?
Let Zach come in. Go on.
0.3% of billionaires might leave. 30% of doctors who are working for NHS are saying they're thinking about leaving because they're worried about the inequality and the crumbling NHS. Are you more worried about billionaires or are you more worried about the people who are actually running this country? Doctors, teachers, nurses. You're sat there saying, oh, please, think of the billionaires. But actually, this is all complete nonsense.
Yes.
We know that this has all been fabricated and actually asking people to pay a small amount, 1%, on assets
Zach, you're a
to help run our economy.
You're a politician, so you're trying to paint me as to just caring about billionaires, which is ridiculous.
Well, no, you started by saying this is my responsibility.
The top 1%.
You've come on here as a very wealthy individual and dared to say on TV, I don't want to pay a bit more tax. When this country is crumbling, we have 4 million children living in child poverty, and you're saying, I don't even want to pay a little bit more. That's morally reprehensible.
You're making it about me. OK, why did it fail in France and Germany? Why did they give it up?
Why is it working in Norway, Spain?
Let Richard answer.
Those two questions. Why are left-wing economists say it'll cost 2 to 5% of GDP? Why has it failed in France, Germany, Sweden, Denmark and other countries? Why are Italy, Portugal, Greece, Dubai, why are those countries attracting wealthy people? If your policy is so great, OK, why did it fail in the 1970s when left-wing... I don't know why the Green Party wants to go red. I support what you're doing on climate change, but you're not studying economics. You need to do an open university course in economic history.
Before we get personal, let him answer that. Why did it fail and where has it worked?
Why did it fail in the 1970s in the UK?
Well, beyond the personal attacks...
No,
Spain,
they're questions.
Switzerland, Norway, all places working with wealth tax. I'll answer your question directly. The reason why it didn't work in other places is because they cast the net too widely. They didn't go for a 1% tax. They went for much bigger tax. So you're making straw men when you're saying, why do these wealth taxes that I'm not suggesting this morning don't work? I never said they would work. What I am saying is a 1% tax on £10 million or more, capital gains tax in line with income tax. We could look at inheritance tax. That looks at only 4% of properties in this country. There are lots of ways of bringing money. But when you are hoarding money and wealth into assets, that's the exact way to break an economy,
so hoarding,
rather than making it productive.
That's another rubbish claim. That's
rather making it productive around the economy.
That's another rubbish claim. This wealthy hoarding people. OK, they might live in a property, but that's hoarding. OK, the people who start...
Well, it is hoarding if the money is not going to the economy.
The people who start businesses are not hoarding wealth. I have put millions and millions into companies which I've lost money from. I've spun things out, even things to help the green, to hair care, fuel reduction businesses. I've poured millions into business, lost millions, trying to help the economy, help the environment. So say it's hoarding is insulting, OK? Because everyone I know, all the wealthy people I know, are trying things.
I'm sorry if you're offended, but what I mean by hoarding is that if it's not going productively around the economy, then it's not tackling the inequality
gap. Might be not going productive around because they're living in it. And one of the things about capital gains tax is it really affects people that haven't got the benefits that come with a formal income tax. So people that are waitresses, bartenders, all those people that are in this kind of strange economy, the poor souls, where they have no protection at all, if they're paying the same as income tax without the benefits, I think sometimes people see these things very simply, but actually it's quite complex. If your staff and your tax that soars, you've also got holiday and sick pay. Those people haven't.
Having been a waiter and knowing lots of people who work as bar staff, etc., I think lots of people have done that. I would much rather have an economy where the money is actually spent. So we have an NHS that's working, affordable public transport.
Just very quick. The Guardian did an article this week where over the weekend, they said that residents in Spain were given a progressive wealth tax, and actually they're saying that they have collected 1.25 billion in the regions. The central government 630 million, given a total of 1.88 billion. So there may be evidence it does work. Can I just ask you a sort of an ethical question, really? You're a very, very wealthy man. You are very much in the top 1%. Do you think it's fair that you should contribute more than everyone else to run the country and to help others?
It may be fair. Unfortunately, it's not a question of fairness. Economics is not always about fairness. It's about what's going to work in the long run. And if people just leave, do you believe 10,000 people have left the UK? 10,000?
No, I don't believe that. And it is fundamentally about fairness. This whole conversation is about economic fairness and justice.
Do you believe it worked in the 1970s? It just doesn't work.
Right. It's safe to say we haven't come to a deal in any way.
What you think at home, though, because it's a lively debate. It's very interesting, both perspectives. Thank you both very much indeed.